everybody to the Toronto Heschel School's Fall Open House. My name is Bailey Daniels. I'm the Director of Admissions and Marketing here, and I'm really happy to welcome you all here. We have some members of our school's leadership team here that I wanted to introduce you to before we get into our content. Over here on my right, we have Greg Bayless, who is our head of school, Alan Rusonic, who is our brand new principal. Back in the corner here, we have Mark Abramson, who is our Director of Business Operations and Acting Executive Director. On this side here, we have Andrea Zakaria. She is our Director of Early Years. Edna Charette, who is our Director Junior High. We have Heidi Friedman, who is our Director of Student Support and Success, I think. Brand new title. I think that's what we're going with. And we're all very happy to welcome you here tonight. So we're going to just let you know what's going to happen tonight. I'm going to make some overview remarks before passing things on to Greg and Alan, who will talk about how we approach learning at Heschel and why we have this particular approach. Then we are going to be treated to reflections from a couple of Heschel alumni. We have here Jacob Van Berg and Emanuela Gladman, who are going to be talking to you about their Heschel education. This is going to be followed up by remarks from a Heschel parent, Michelle Sabari, who is sitting at the back of the room with her sister, who is a prospective parent here. And we will then have some Q&A and a tour for those who are interested. And actually, I should just mention about the tour, we have a lot of people here who are interested in JK, some preschool, some grade 1, and so the tour is going to be led by Andrea and Heidi jointly, who have expertise in those areas. Oh, okay, that really works a lot better. Okay, so thank you all for taking the time to learn about what the Toronto Heschel School has to offer. Choosing our children's educational path is one of the most important decisions we ever make as parents, and so it's worth the investment of time to find a school that is going to be a great fit for your family and resonates with your hopes and aspirations for your children. As a parent of 3 older teenagers and young adults, I can tell you that I've done my share of school research in my time. But I can say I didn't actually do a lot of research when it came to early years education. My husband and I had premarital negotiations. He was the product of Jewish day school. I was the product of French immersion. We each wanted our own, past to be lived again by our children. And I really didn't take the time to even look into Jewish day school and to see that there are differences between Jewish day schools. There are many, many ways that Heschel stands out from the pack. I didn't know that there was a Jewish day school that promoted intellectual curiosity instead of rote memorization, enabling deep learning and preparing children to tackle 21st century challenges. I didn't know that there was a Jewish day school that excited children by what they were learning in class, by aiming to inspire awe and wonder in every lesson. I didn't know there was a Jewish day school that encouraged its students to consider Judaism deeply and to ask questions about issues that may puzzle them. I didn't know there was a Jewish day school that imparts progressive values, introducing students to the diverse peoples of the world and insisting that we are all treated with respect and kindness. I didn't know there was a Jewish day school that instills the habits of heart, soul, body, and mind, which allow every student to go into the world with compassion, conviction, and confidence. And I didn't understand the positive impact that a Jewish day school could have on my children's ethical framework through the emphasis of weekly midot that teach children how to be mensches. Many of Heschel's unique offerings were inspired by Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, our namesake, whom you may know was a civil rights activist who became close friends with Martin Luther King Jr. When Rabbi Heschel marched with MLK in Selma, Alabama for black voter rights in 1965, he wrote that it felt like their legs were praying that day. The idea that prayer can be something that you do with your legs, with your body, through action, was really foundational in the establishment of the Toronto Heschel School. The social action and responsibility that we teach is multifaceted and includes commitment to environmental education and stewardship. We encourage our students to think about and act on interlocking global issues, from climate change to cultural equality. Whoops, sorry. So what we're doing here at the Toronto Heschel School is endorsed by a number of third-party organizations. You don't have to just take it from me. The school has received accreditation with high commendations from PRISMA, which is the network for Jewish day schools across North America. We were once again, for the many time in a row, a Platinum Eco School, which is a third-party certification of environmental excellence in Eco School Canada's last round of accreditation. And at the end of last year, we won the Gold and Diamond Awards for the Best Private School in Toronto from the Toronto Star and the North York Mirror. One hugely important accreditation that we received this past August was a childcare license from the province of Ontario. We are proud that our early years program is now licensed from preschool through senior kindergarten, which has a couple of significant benefits. First, all of these grades would be permitted to stay open in case of any future COVID lockdowns, which we hope will never be the case again, but that would be something that we would now be allowed to do. And secondly, we've opted into the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system. You may have heard of $10 a day daycare. We're not quite at $10 a day yet, but the government is promising that fees are coming down. In 2023, they will be rebating 50% of tuition, and that is something that our preschool through SK will be able to take advantage of. The Covenant Foundation, which is based in New York, is an organization that honors outstanding Jewish educators in North America and supports creative approaches to programming which strengthen educational endeavors that perpetuate the identity, continuity, and heritage of the Jewish people. Heschel is very proud to have two recipients of two different Covenant prizes. In 2019, Greg Bayless, our head of school, was awarded the Covenant Foundation's prestigious Covenant Award, which honors exceptional Jewish educators who have made an impact on Jewish life through innovative educational practices and models. And just 10 days ago, we were thrilled that another one of our faculty members, Moralisa Sheps, our Curriculum Innovation and Mentorship Lead, received the Pomegranate Prize, which recognizes emerging leaders in the field of Jewish education. These awards constitute a significant endorsement of Heschel's unique approach to Jewish education. We are also very proud of our student achievements. In the past year, several of our junior high school students achieved within the top 5% nationwide in the University of Waterloo's Gauss Math Contest, the Caribou Math Contest, and the Beaver Computing Challenge. As well, two of our students were published in the Polar Expressions Poetry Contest anthology. We have also been thrilled that competitive sport has come back to our community, and the Heschel plays in the Jewish Day School Sports League. So last spring, as you may be able to see from the banners that are hanging at the top there, the Heschel Hornets won the senior boys softball and elementary boys soccer tournaments and came second in senior girls soccer, senior girls softball, and co-ed elementary softball. So it was a great spring for us. We have also kicked off this fall with a number of great achievements. Our grade 3 to 8 students took home 3 golds, 3 silvers, and 5 bronze medals at a cross-country meet a couple weeks ago. And just yesterday, our grade 4 and 5 boys won the JDSSL soccer tournament. We're very proud of all of our students' efforts and successes. So the last thing I'm going to talk about before I turn things over to Greg is our graduates. So many prospective families rightly want to know whether our grads are well prepared for life after Heschel. That's why they're here. So looking at high school first, just to give you a sense of where people are going, in a typical year, it's somewhere between 50 and 75% of our students that head to Chat after Heschel. And most others attend public high school, sometimes for specialized programs like Claude Watson, the MAX program at Mackenzie, or a gifted program, and sometimes just in the regular stream. I am going to focus on Chat because that's the only school that I have any data from, but I can tell you a little bit about how our students have done there. Our class that graduated this past June, the class of 2018, 77% of our class went to Chat, and all of them earned grade 12 averages over 90% with an average grade of 95.5%. So I would say it seems like academically they were prepared for high school. Our students also won a number of awards this year. They won the Business Studies Award, the Mathematics Award, and the Music Award. And in the past, they have won pretty much every award that Chet has to offer. So I'm not going to name them all, but they are getting a very well-rounded education here, and they are able to go on and achieve in all of these different areas. So not speaking about Chet specifically, but just in general, we've had a number of high school grads who have gone on to win the Governor General Award for the highest high school average in their school. And we are also quite proud that many of our graduates have won some significant entrance scholarships to university. Some that I am aware of, we have a graduate who got the Schulich Leader Award, which is a very significantly sized award for university study in STEM subjects. We've had a grad go on to get the Queen's Chancellor Scholarship, which is the biggest award at Queen's. The Donald R. Sobey Family Scholarship was earned by one of our grads, the C. David Naylor University Entrance Scholarship, as well as the University of Toronto National Book Award, which actually goes to excellent students who go to any school. They don't have to actually go to U of T. So overall, I would conclude by saying our students are definitely prepared for their post-graduation studies, challenges, and life ahead. So without further ado, let me introduce Greg Bayless, Head of School and Director of the Lola Stein Institute. Greg has actually taught every grade from grade 3 and up since starting as a teacher at Heschel 25 years ago, and has been head of school since 2014. Greg's background includes a Master of Arts in the Philosophy of Education and a PhD from U of T Center for the Study of Religion. And of course, we already discussed the Covenant Award. Greg, take it away.
So first of all, thank you, Bailey. I don't normally like to use a microphone, but we're recording this because a number of people who'd wanted to attend were not able to make it, and we wanted to make it possible for them to attend. I also like to speak with my hands a lot, but they've got me with a mic in one hand and a projector thing in another hand, so I'm a little off my beat today, but I will do my best. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. These days I've noticed many families are opting for personal tours, which is great, and some of you may have done that also. And it's nice to sort of catch a glimpse of people as Bailey brings them around the school. But it's not generally possible to be able to meet with people for a length of time, and also for you to be able to meet with a number of people from the school leadership team. So I think it's a great opportunity. More importantly than anything else, though, you get to meet 2 of our graduates, and you don't get to see our graduates when you do a school tour. So, so thanks for taking the time. It's really, I think, an important opportunity to get to know how our school works. So Bailey spoke a lot about where graduates end up going, where things sort of end up later on. I'm going to talk to you a lot about what happens now, what happens when your kids are in our school, and the kind of approach we take to teaching and learning that produces what we think are really, really creative, dynamic, thoughtful students. So one of the questions that I often get asked by prospective families is this question: is Heschel a religious school? People are touring different schools and they want to know, are we very religious? Are we a little religious? How religious? What kind of religious? And the answer I give to that question is yes. We are absolutely a religious school in ways that you might understand as being typically religious, and in ways that are actually quite different from that. So we're religious in the sense that, yes, we practice Jewish religion, we teach Torah, we daven, we learn Jewish history, we learn Talmud, we learn Mishnah, all of the things you might normally associate with a religious school. But much, much more than that, because for Abraham Joshua Heschel, after whom the school is inspired, religion went far beyond the practices and the learning. They're important, they're critical, but for Heschel, Judaism was much deeper than that. Judaism was a source of intellectual and spiritual inspiration, a source of a sense of belonging, a guide for good conduct, and a set of practices that instill in our students what we call habits of heart and mind and body and soul, ways of being and thinking and operating in the world. One of the most important features of religion for Heschel, sorry, you're going to see me moving my hands around with this feels kind of silly with us. But one of the most important features of religion for Heschel is instilling a sense of awe and wonder and amazement. And as Bailey mentioned, we really work hard here at Heschel to instill that sense of awe and wonder and amazement in all of the teaching that we do. And you really only just need to kind of look around this room to see examples of really awesome and amazing, in this case, visual art, because that's the stuff that we can kind of show you, but it happens here in every part of our curriculum. One of the main ways that we teach here at Heschel is through an integrated curriculum. So we are not a half day. We're not like you're Jewish half the day and the other half of the day you're kind of not, or you're just general studies or whatever. We bring the Jewish and the general studies together all day long. I'm going to give you an example. This comes from our senior kindergarten curriculum, but we do this across the board. This week just happens to be this week. We are learning the midah of being flexible from this week's Torah portion, but each week we have a different midah and a different learning. It just so happens that this presentation today happens during the Parsha where we explore. Oh no, actually I'm a week ahead. Sorry. This is last week's midah. Rewind. This is last week's midah based on the Parsha of Lech Lecha. The story is that Abraham and Lot are having a little bit of a debate or an argument, or their shepherds are, because there isn't enough food for the sheep on the land. And Abraham says to Lot, you know what? We can be flexible. You want to go that way? I'll go this way. You want to go this way? I'll go that way. So that midah, that idea, informs the curriculum that is taught. It starts with the Torah story. We always root our big ideas at Heschel in Torah, in Jewish concepts. And you can see there a couple of our teachers acting out the Parsha, the narrative, the story of the midah. After Torah, we take the lesson that we're learning into other areas of learning. So one of the things that's very important to us here at Heschel is helping instill in our students a sense of flexibility and self-regulation, emotional flexibility, teaching children how to respond in flexible ways to situations that happen. We do a lot of work here on mindfulness at the school, and we give our kids the skills to be able to be thoughtful, to be mindful, and to calm themselves down when they need to. And these are really, really important skills to learn in the early years, and we carry them through all of the ages. The idea then moves into other areas of the social emotional curriculum, conflict resolution. We've got a problem, we've got a debate, we're trying to share a marker with a friend. What do we do? How do we figure it out? We go back to the story and we say, okay, how can we be flexible like Abraham? How can we act in that way? Maybe we're going to take turns. Maybe I'll choose a different color. There's nothing wrong with a pink tree or a purple tree. It doesn't have to be green. I can think out of the box. So that kind of flexible thinking, again, going back to the narrative of Abraham and Lot. Here's another situation. We're trying to get everybody across the river. Bnei Israel are trying to get across the river. How are we going to get them all across? Let's think about different ways of solving that problem. We bring the same kind of ideas into the academic curriculum. So we're learning about math. So math, there are many, many, many different ways to think about numbers. Numbers are not just a given. There's not just one rote way. As Bailey mentioned, it's not just about learning through rote. How do you construct the number 5? 5 is 4 and 1, it's 3 and 2, it's 5 and 0. There are a lot of different ways to think about 5, visually, through symbols, kinesthetically. And so we engage students from the very, very beginning in thinking flexibly also in the academic curriculum. Likewise, through language, you can manipulate phonemes to make different words. You can trade them out, see what happens, thinking flexibly. Bilingualism. So there's a ton of research now, and some of you may be familiar with it, that suggests that if you learn another language, it not only gives you the benefit of knowing that language, and obviously for us, Hebrew is very, very important for Jewish identity, but it's also good for the mind, good for the brain. The ability to think in 2 different languages, or in our case 3, because we also teach French, has huge, huge benefits, and Heschel is renowned for having a very, very high-level Hebrew program. It's one of the pieces of feedback we regularly get from chat in particular, is that our students have certainly equal to and generally above the level of Hebrew of all of the other day schools. It's very important to us here at Heschel. We think it's a core piece of Jewish identity, but also really, really important for students' thinking, and not just their thinking, but also their sense of empathy. Because there's also research that suggests if you learn a second language, you have the ability to kind of put yourself in the mind of another person, or at least imagine that there's another way of thinking about the world. If you have a different name for something. If it's a different word for the same object, that must mean there's different ways of thinking about things, and there's some really interesting research on that as well. This integrated curriculum doesn't just happen in senior kindergarten, doesn't just happen in grade 1, it happens throughout the entire school, and it becomes very sophisticated when students reach junior high. Just one example from our grade 7 class, the first unit of the year is called the Kama de Chayef Enish. It's a phrase from the Talmud, from the Gemara, and it has to do with the relationship between the shape of a shofar and the kind of prayer that a person might offer at Rosh Hashanah, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And we take that idea, and from it we build the concept that form conveys meaning. The way something is structured or organized conveys the meaning, and that can happen in mathematics. So students at that time of year will study geometry, because that's a perfect example of form conveying meaning. It happens in literature. Students are studying poetry, so they look at the way in which different poems are structured and written and organized to convey the feeling or the content of that poem. They obviously study that text in the Gemara and Talmud, in the original Hebrew and Aramaic. We do not use English translations for that here at Heschel. In all of the subjects, you'll see some examples of the students' Unatana Tokef Rothko-inspired paintings, where they look at the dualism of the Unatana Tokef prayer, and they represent that through art. To me, one of the most interesting ways this plays out is actually in the science curriculum, where students look at forms of energy and the way in which energy changes forms but is preserved. So anyone who knows that, the law of conservation of energy. And I want to show you one of the projects that our students do here, because project-based learning is very important to us as well. We think students learn best when they build, when they're working with their hands. We don't do science here just by reading science textbooks. We do it by actually engaging our students in active learning. And this is an example of a Rube Goldberg project, which is a project in which students explore the transformation of energy by building an energy transformation machine. So I'm just going to show you this example.
In my machine, I use 3 simple machines. I have an incline plane, which is this piece of wood, and this tube. And then I have a wheel and axle, which is the wheels on the car. And then down here, I have a pulley system. To start my machine, I light this sugar on fire, which is thermal, chemical, and radiant energy. The string is going to snap, which is going to release the car, which is gravitational motion energy. As it rolls down the inclined plane, it will hit this bucket of marbles, which will knock over it and become sound energy, because you'll hear the sound of the marbles rolling down, and it's gravitational motion again. And it's going to go all the way down this tube into this bucket. And because of the weight and the gravitational energy, that bucket's going to fall and flip up the screen domino, which is going to end up knocking all of these Jenga pieces. And these 2 black things are magnets, which is electromagnetic energy, and they'll come together, knocking the rest of these dominoes down, which is more sound energy. And it'll eventually knock those 2 balloons, which will be right here, onto the pins, and they will pop and paint my picture.
Oopsie. Oh no, we just missed the most important part. Well, we figure that, as long as she's planned it well, that's probably good enough, right? Because there's no possible way that thing could actually work. But let's see. Maybe it can.
And it'll eventually knock those 2 balloons, which will be right here, onto the pins, and they will pop and paint my picture.
Whoa. Yes. So pretty impressive, and just really one of the many kinds of hands-on projects that our students do, starting when they're little and building to greater levels of sophistication as they move up through the grades. So another way that we seek to inspire inspiration and awe and wonder at our school, and I'm sure many of you have heard about this dimension of the school, is through arts integrated learning. And just in the same way that for us religion is not just about religious practices, but also about thinking and feeling and soulfulness, likewise so is arts integrated learning. Our goal here is not for your children to become artists. If your children become artists, that's wonderful and amazing and incredible, but arts integrated teaching isn't about teaching children to be artists. It's about using the arts to instill habits of heart and mind, ways of thinking about the world. Aesthetic experiences really stimulate our mind in very, very important ways that have to do with the multiple intelligences and different ways that our mind works. Some really important research by Howard Gardner at Harvard University, which some of you may be familiar with. So we integrate the arts here pretty much through everything that we do. So whether we're representing the 10 plagues through a soundscape, or a hip-hop battle scene from the book of Shmuel Bet in the Nevi'im curriculum. Maybe we're representing indigenous stories through beading and patterning. Maybe we're weaving the travels of Bnei Israel, mi'avdut lecherut, from slavery to freedom, through macrame. Maybe it's an Seder plate done through the ceramics program. Maybe it's these amazing silk talitot that you see on display here that our students wear at Tefillah. There are many, many ways that we bring the arts into our curriculum, and it's not just visual art. It's drama, it's music, it's dance. It's really pretty much every art form that you can imagine. And again, not for the purpose of becoming an artist, but really for the purpose of whole child learning, of approaching children as full, whole, multisensory human beings. Another piece that relates to that is learning through play. Play has also been shown to be a very, very important part of children's learning as whole people, not just rote learning. And when we talk about learning through play, we don't just mean 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds. Of course, we do mean 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds, but we also mean learning mathematics through games, learning Hebrew through drama. There are many, many different ways that plays into, pardon the pun, plays into learning here at Heschel. We use the outdoors a great deal as well. For those of you who've been here during daylight hours, you've probably seen our really amazing, incredible outdoor space that I think is pretty unparalleled in the Jewish Day School, and I think most schools don't have the kind of access to green space that we have. The last way, or I guess one of the ways that we also teach here that is maybe less well known, is what we call thinking in the disciplines. So in addition to our integrated curriculum, we also pay a lot of attention to how children think, how students think when they're learning math, when they're learning science, when they're learning language arts. We don't see all learning as the same. So if you're learning science, it's not a matter of opening up a science textbook and reading what the science textbook says and then writing that down, because that's really not science at the end of the day. That's reading comprehension. And we want our students to learn to think like scientists. So, hey, Jacob, that's you. So when we're teaching science, we do a lot of experiments. We make a lot of observations. We want the students to understand the relationship between the sun, the moon, and the earth. We send them outside. We say, look up at the sky, track the movements of the moon, track the shadows of the sun, do that for a few days, come up with some hypotheses, try to figure out what's really going on, build models, see if you can reflect what's going on through models to what you're actually seeing, and that kind of thing. So we want our students to think like scientists. Likewise, when our students learn how to write, they go through what we call a writing process. So we teach them how to awaken their imagination, often through visualizations or mindfulness techniques. Then they learn how to draft, then they learn how to revise, then they learn how to stand up and present. And tomorrow is a very, very wonderful day at the Heschel School. We have a school-wide poetry festival. Tomorrow or the next day? Tomorrow. See, I'm off on the Parsha and on the days of the week. Where every student from grade 1 up will stand up in front of their peers and recite a poem that they've memorized. And we do think memorization does have its place. It's just not for rote learning. It's for memorizing the structures of language, which is very important. Likewise, art here is a discipline. It helps students plan, experiment, refine. When we learn Torah here, we're not just learning Torah for its content and for its messages and its values, of course that also, but also to learn how do you work in Chavruta, how do you decode challenging texts, because we read our Torah here only in the original. Again, students learn Rashi, which is really learning how to use footnotes at the end of the day. Creative interpretations and life connections are a really important part of learning Torah. Math. What's math all about? Math is not about finding the answer to questions, because we live in a time, if you want to find the answer to 17 times 9, you'll Google it, you'll use a calculator. At this point, math is really about training our minds to evaluate, to estimate, to interpret symbols, to be strategic, and we structure our math program that way. And I'm actually just going to give one example from math because I think it really makes the point, the difference between teaching for understanding and strategic thinking versus just teaching for rote. So, simple question, 399 times 7. When we were in school, we were taught how to solve this problem. You line up the numbers, make sure the 7 is exactly underneath the 9, not exactly sure why, but somehow lining up numbers is supposed to help us solve them properly. And then we multiply. 9 times 7 is 63. You write the 3, you put the 6 up on the top. Why do you put the 6 up on the top? Not entirely sure why, but that is what you're supposed to do. Then you do the next part of the process. Multiply 7 times 9, you'll write down another 3, you'll add on the 6, then you'll do some carrying. Carrying is not really part of math either, but at the end of the day, you will get the answer. Or maybe you could look at that problem and you can say to yourself, well, 399 is really close to 400. 400 is a nice round number. I know that 400 times 7 is 2,800, because I have learned my times tables here at Heschel. And then I know I just take away one group of 7 and I get the answer, 2,793. What have I done? I've shown that I understand what multiplication actually is. It's about grouping. It's about grouping numbers, and there's a much easier and more efficient way to get the answer than all of that lining up. But more importantly, I'm learning how to think like a mathematician, strategically using the base 10 number system as my tool. A much simpler example, we use this in grade 1, add all the numbers from 1 to 9. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. I could do it that way. 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 4 is 7, 7 plus 5 is 12. Or I could just be kind of strategic and say, well, 1 and 9 is 10, 2 and 8 is 10, 3 and 7 is 10, 4 and 6 is 10, there's 5 left over, it's 45. So we teach our students to look at problems that way. What's the smartest way to solve this problem? How do I take advantage of the fact that our number system is a base 10 number system? How do I think about numbers intelligently? Because at the end of the day, as I said, if I want to just figure out the answer, there are very efficient ways to do that. Math is really not about figuring out the answer. Probably never was, but certainly it isn't now. Outdoor learning, as Bailey mentioned, a huge and important feature of our school. And I'm going to just bring in one of our wonderful teachers, who's also our director of outdoor learning, to talk to you a little bit about what we do in terms of outdoor learning. This was recorded last year when we were under our COVID conditions, so she'll be making some reference to that, but the principles all still apply. So this is Mora Yarden Borlas. That one's louder.
We've always valued outdoor learning at Heschel for the main reason that it takes kids into a different setting. It affects their senses differently. They can feel the sun on their face or the wind blowing through their hair. They've got an open sky to look at, and it serves as an entry point for almost anything that they're studying. If they're studying poetry, there's math being done in the outdoors, and it's done in a way that is so harmonious with the way children learn that it works so beautifully for almost any subject that they're learning. In addition, I would say that this year in particular, because we are making an effort to spread out and breathe fresh and clean air, and we need a break from our masks, the outdoors has become this just enormous classroom that works so beautifully. We've always got students learning outdoors in our outdoor classroom areas in Sukkot. We're using the field, we're learning under the willow tree, and it's amazing this year particularly, I'm surprised that students from different cohorts are watching each other learn outside, and there's this amazing feeling of togetherness even though we're apart at the outdoors place.
We have a learning garden. Each grade has a bed in the garden. They do planting, they do harvesting, something related to the curriculum that's being learned at the time. Just going to skip that because we already saw it. Environmental stewardship is very, very important to the school. It's one of the founding principles of the school, is to think about, care about, and make an effort to help make sure that we have a beautiful, clean planet to live on. And we do that from a Jewish perspective. And we have a number of programs. Our grade 3s are involved with a program with the Toronto Zoo, Salmon Hatchery Program. We have a beautiful pollinator garden that we've planted to help preserve the bee and butterfly populations of our local area, but frankly also of the world. Israel engagement and learning is also a really important part of our school. So here you see our students involved in a Yom HaAtzmaut celebration, learning about Israel outdoors. There's a big giant map of Israel. You can't see it very well, but it's there. And we're a very pluralistic and Jewishly diverse community. And what that means here at Heschel isn't just that anyone can come. It's not that. It's not like, okay, you'll come and whatever you are is fine, but we won't really ask you any questions. We ask questions. We learn from each other. We have inclusive, intentional pluralism here at Heschel, which means our students learn that there is more than one way to be Jewish. There's more than one kind of Siddur. Brachot can be said and are said by different communities in different ways. We have pluralistic minyanim and Siddurim. The school is egalitarian on the one hand, but also respectful of halakha on the other, and it's a very interesting balance and tension here at the school, but one that we feel is very important for preserving a sense of Klal Yisrael and the community that we want our people, the Jewish people, to be. Multiple access points and ways of interpreting Jewish traditions and teachings, and at the same time, a very rigorous, very Hebrew-based, very text-based approach to learning. So our students come out, I think, with one of the most rigorous Jewish educations in the city and one of the most open-minded Jewish educations in the city, and we're very proud of that fact. None of this would be possible, of course, without our incredibly inspired and dedicated teachers. The Heschel School attracts really, really special teachers. I think you guys will agree, having learned from many of them. People come here because they're inspired by the vision of the school. This is not just a job for anyone in this building, and I can guarantee you that 100%. In fact, I don't know if it'll still be happening, but right now our gym teacher, who is the one who is responsible for coaching many of the teams who won all those awards, is doing an adult education program around Sephardic cooking. That's his background, and our teachers are always doing that kind of thing. There's an adult education program run by the art teacher in ceramics coming up in a couple of weeks. So our teachers are all in here at the school. We support them in many, many ways. There's an active mentorship program here at the school, active ongoing teacher training and professional development, not just sort of PD days, but built into teachers' schedules as time with mentors, time to meet with each other, time to build this integrated curriculum. We have a performance-based salary incentive program, which is very, very unique. I can't think of any other Jewish day school, and really most other schools, certainly public schools, don't have that. Last but not least, I just want to mention the Lola Stein Institute. This is a kind of a think tank institute that's associated with the school that supports many of our initiatives. Think Magazine, which you probably have a copy of there, is a Lola Stein Institute initiative. Our teacher training program through the Teacher Performance and Learning Studio, our new Teacher Academy, ongoing teacher mentoring and training, and right now we're in the middle of a very, very big project to put all of our curriculum up on a platform and eventually to kind of make that outward facing so that parents can kind of really see, sort of look under the hood, as it were, of the engine of the school. So that's lots of great stuff going on there. So that's the end of what my part of the presentation. At this point, I'd like to introduce you to Morey Alan Rusonik. Alan has just come on board at the Heschel School this year. Alan comes to us with many, many years of experience working in the field of Jewish education. He has a master's of the Jewish Theological Seminary. And we're very, very happy to have Alan here. One of the big strengths that Alan brings to the school is a background and passion and interest in social emotional learning, derech eretz, and supporting our students in every way possible. So Alan's going to speak a little bit about that piece of the school, and welcome, Alan.
Thank you, Greg. So, get that picture off there. There we go. So first of all, thank you for coming out this evening, and I'm just honored to be here. I'm honored to be at this school and to be part of this incredible, incredible community. As you saw in that slide just a moment ago, and as Greg said, I've worked in Jewish communities in Southern California, in Florida, and in Texas, and there is no school like this school. It is very unique, it is very special, it is cutting edge, and I am really, really honored to be a part of what's happening at the Toronto Heschel School. So as Greg said, my whole gestalt over the last, I would say, 10 years has really been about social emotional learning. When I started teaching X amount of years ago, I probably could have told you what social emotional learning was, but probably not so well. You know, we were learning what we needed to learn in the classroom, and we figured, well, the parents will sort of figure out how to raise the kids. And what's happened over and I won't say how many years I've been doing this, is that things have changed. Students have changed, families have changed, the world has changed. And we know so much more about how children work, how the brain works, how our emotions work, and how to best reach children. And so I really, really believe that social emotional learning is as equal and an important role in everything that we do here at the Toronto Heschel School. We have a few ways that we accomplish this. One is through student support. So, and as you've already heard, there's a whole child approach that we use when looking at each individual child. We have a team of teachers who liaison with the parents and with the students and with outside professionals where necessary in order to meet the children's needs and to address the social emotional learning as well as their academic needs as well. So that's one way that we address the social emotional learning. Yellow. There we go. Another thing is Derech Eretz, and as our tradition teaches us, Derech Eretz Kedma LaTorah, that here it says good conduct precedes learning, and that's certainly true. Or you can't have good learning if you don't have classrooms that are conducive to learning. So the way that we behave, the way that we conduct ourselves, the way that we interact with our peers, with our teachers, is equally important. So we have a Derech Eretz Code of Conduct. You've already heard a little bit about our Midat HaShavua program and our SEL program, our Social Emotional Learning program that takes place in each of the classrooms. Challenged. Yeah, I'm pressing page down, yeah. No, I pressed it twice, so. Boom, boom. Yeah. Oh, thank you. So, this one actually happens to be this week's Midah that aligns with this week's Torah portion. Of course, this week's Torah portion is Parshat Vayera, and we read at the beginning of the Torah portion about how Abraham is recuperating from, well, the Midrash says from his circumcision, but the Torah isn't explicit there. And at that same time, he welcomes guests into his tent, and he does so in a way that really sets the bar in terms of what Hachnasat Orchim, or welcoming guests into our homes and into our community, is all about. And so our Midat HaShavua this week, of course, is being welcoming, and we learn about that. And it's also, as we said, it's connected to the Parsha, and we don't just read about the Midah, we actually sing it with the trup. So we would sing Vayaratz likratam mi petach ha'ohel, and it's amazing how we have kids in grades 2 and up who are actually chanting the Torah. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And learning the values of Torah and applying it to day-to-day life. Oh. No, it's another one. We're good. Yella. Thank you. As we said, Derech Eretz Kedma LaTorah, that classes that are conducive to learning are really important. So we have a model of a behavior modification, if you will. We call it restorative tikkun. There's a process that we abide by that we work with the students, because really it's about repair. It's about not just correcting, but really a thoughtful process in terms of how we can do and will do better moving forward.
It's this one down here.
Is that one down there? No wonder. Oh, good job. So to make to hit this point home, we also have grade level Tikkun Olam projects, and each grade level, in an integrated way, is working on a Tikkun Olam project. This happens to be a second grade project here, where the students were learning about communities around the world. So this project was, not only did they learn about it in their classrooms, but they also used it as an opportunity to help others. So they had a pancake sale where they were applying the knowledge in an integrated way and raising money as part of a Tikkun Olam project as well. And finally, hey, I did it. Social justice. As you've already heard at the beginning, our school, inspired by the ideas and thoughts of Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, talked a lot about social justice. And we don't just talk about social justice here at the Heschel School. It's everything that we do in terms of our thoughts and our actions. It's not enough just to learn these ideas, but actually put them into action. As our tradition teaches us, lo hamidrash ha'ikar ela ha'ma'aseh. It's not just the learning, but it's actually the doing. And social justice allows us to put the learning into action on a regular basis. Just to conclude, my role as principal is really to be the boots on the ground, working with the students, working with the teachers, working with the parents. There isn't a day goes by that I don't walk out of here totally inspired. And I'll just share one example from a class today. I happen to be teaching Trop, teaching the fourth graders how to the notes through reading Torah, and there was one student who raised his hand. He said, Maura Allen, I have to go to the bathroom, but I'm enjoying the class so much. I don't know whether I should go or I should wait until afterwards. So that was, to me, that felt really good, that we were doing a good job and that we were really having an impact on the students. So thank you again for coming this evening. Thank you for allowing me to address you just briefly about some of the things that we do here at Heschel. Wrong direction.
So thank you very much, Maura Allen. Now we are in for a real treat as we get to hear the perspectives of two of our school alumni and a current parent. So we're going to start things off by inviting Emanuela Gladman to come up to the mic. She is a grade 12 student at Mackenzie. Thank you, Emanuela. Do you want to hold it or have it on the stand? Whatever you want.
Hi, my name's Emanuela Gladman, and I went to Heschel from JK all the way until grade 8. And like Bailey said, I'm currently in grade 12 at Mackenzie. My favorite thing about Heschel was by far the teachers. They had an incredible ability to make every student feel like they belonged, both within the classroom and in the Heschel community in general. The teachers were supportive, encouraging, and they knew their subject matter well, which was really helpful to learn from them. It was super easy. They were also great at holding our attention and paying attention to the unique needs of every student, even within a larger classroom environment. One of the things that makes Heschel so special is how seamlessly Jewish education is incorporated into all aspects of the curriculum. For example, when we got to perform the dramatization of Shmuel Aleph and Bet. We started by studying the Judaic texts, and then we progressed to acting out the scenes, which I think was an amazing way to apply our learning. Another thing that makes Heschel unique is all of the experiential and hands-on learning that students get to do. For example, when I was in grade 7, I got to build a water heater for science class, or when I was in grade 4, we got to write scenes for our performance of Jacob Tutu and then present them. Some of my other favorite Heschel memories include our class trip to Israel in SK for Yom HaAtzmaut, where our teachers transformed both our classroom and part of the schoolyard to look like Israel, to teach us about Israel and Yom HaAtzmaut in a very engaging way. It's by far one of the things I remember the quickest when someone asked me about my experience at Heschel. Another one of my favorite memories was when I was in grade 2, and we did a partnership with an all-girls high school where we got to work together on a story. We got to write it together and illustrate it, and I still have the book now. It's really incredible. There are also a lot of opportunities to connect with people within the Heschel community, but also in the Jewish community in general. For example, when we were in grade 8, we visited Kensington Place Retirement Residence, and we got to spend time with the seniors there. And we also got to spend a lot of time with the JKs when we were in grade 8, and we walked them into their first Hanukkah concert, which was our last, which was a really beautiful experience and memory. At Heschel, we learn in a very unique way. In kindergarten, we learn mostly through play. Throughout grades 1 to 5, we had one main teacher and separate specialist teachers for Judaics, art, phys ed, and music. And then in grades 6 through 8, we experienced a rotary model where we had many different teachers. And we also got lockers for the first time, which was a great way to prepare us for high school. I think my favorite thing I was a part of at Heschel was our grade 8 dance. I'm a dancer. And not only was the experience amazing in that the grade 8 dance is seen by the whole school, all of the teachers, all of the students, and all of the parents, but it was also a really great bonding experience with my class, and it was a really amazing way to end my 10 years at Heschel. Heschel has prepared me for high school in so many ways, but the most prominent is that I learned to see how many different perspectives there are on everything, and how all of these perspectives have so much value and are so important. And yeah, I have been shaped by Heschel in so many ways. It's given me lifelong friends and an excellent connection with my Jewish history and the Jewish community. At the end of the day, I'm beyond grateful for all the experiences, opportunities, and lessons that Heschel provided me with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manuela. And we are lucky that we have actually the opportunity to hear from 2 alumni tonight. So Jacob Van Berg is a grade 12 student at Chat, and I look forward to hearing what he has to say.
Hi, everyone. So, as you know, my name is Jacob Van Berg, and I would like to briefly talk to you about my Heschel experience. So, firstly, just a bit about myself. I'm a grade 12 student at Tannenbaum Chat, the local pluralistic Jewish high school. At school, I've been at Madrich, which is like a student counselor the past few years, where I plan and run the overnight Shabbatons for incoming grade 9s that gives them a chance to bond with their grade. I also play on the soccer team, and I'm on the Student Investment Council, which is a new initiative at Chat that teaches kids to learn about the stock market and have some hands-on experience. And I'm also on the council of an organization called Youth for Youth Learning, which offers free one-on-one tutoring to students in under-resourced communities. And this is an incredible organization that a different Heschel alumni, a few years older than me, started. And maybe you haven't noticed, but I'm also part of the Movember Club at my school. And during the month of November, we grow mustaches to raise awareness about men's cancer. And I think it is in great part thanks to Heschel that I've developed this diverse set of skills and interests. So I came to Heschel in the beginning of grade 4, after recently moving to Canada from Europe, and I arrived not speaking any Hebrew, not being fluent in English, and not knowing anyone in Canada. I simply could not have made it to where I am today without an invaluable Heschel experience. And although I could discuss at great lengths the many strengths of Heschel, I want to narrow down to a few aspects that impacted me most. First, the teachers. I had an outstanding group of teachers who were supportive, enthusiastic, engaged, diverse, and patient. Having teachers from all walks of life, united by a shared passion for teaching, was a very meaningful experience for me, as it broadened my sense of the world. The dedication my teachers had to seeing me succeed was the motivation I needed when I struggled, and whenever I returned, it's so nice to see those familiar faces. Second, the Hebrew. Many of my teachers were Israeli Canadians or fluent in Hebrew, and this was an extremely beneficial experience in terms of learning Hebrew. Thanks to classes that were completely taught and conducted in Hebrew, my speaking, writing, and comprehension skills, as well as those of all my peers, grew exponentially. When we'd ask a question to a teacher in any Jewish subject, they would always respond in Hebrew. And whenever we wanted to ask a question or say something, they encouraged us to phrase it in Hebrew as well. The style of teaching, called Ivrit Be'Ivrit, meaning Hebrew in Hebrew, is why nearly all my Heschel peers at Chat are in the highest level of Hebrew education offered, and why I could comfortably talk and communicate all in Hebrew with my peers during my trip to Israel last summer. Third, the relationships I built with my peers. Socially, the scale of each grade, usually around 25 to 40 students, allowed us to create strong and special bonds that last till today. Although we all had our closest friends, of course, the size of the grade ensured that I worked together on some project, participated in some activity, or had the time to connect with every single student in my grade. The sense of togetherness made each part of our Heschel experience feel not just like another step in my life, but rather a collective milestone in our journey as well. 4 years later, I still consistently meet up with my friends from Heschel, even those who attend different high schools. Next, the religious pluralism of Heschel. When I entered Chat, and throughout my years there, I fully realized the unique ability that Heschel ingrained in its students, a respect and understanding for all types of Judaism. Through having weekly tefillot, prayers, conducted in styles from Reformed, traditional Orthodox to alternative, and developing the ability to participate and even lead any of these services, Heschel allowed me to explore what Judaism means to me and how I want to practice it. Now that I am at Chat, I have friends from both very observant and secular backgrounds, and I am able to understand, respect, and connect with their different forms of Judaism. Lastly, beyond instilling in me a passion for learning, allowing me to build deep friendships that last to today, and broadening my view of the world, Heschel also taught me the importance of Derech Eretz. Literally meaning the way of the land, Derech Eretz refers to the idea of behaving as a kind, decent, respectful, and contributing member of society. One of my most powerful memories at Heschel was when we participated in an interfaith program with an Islamic school called the Asadik School. We learned about each other's cultures and religions, worked together on some Tikkun Olam social justice initiatives, and played sports together. Also, every year, the grades 7s and 8s would participate in a Heschel program called Pay It Forward Purim, where students, along with teachers and parents, prepared and distributed much-needed care packages for the homeless in Toronto. Each person in need would get one package for them and a second package, so if they wanted to, they could also join in the mitzvah of giving to those in need. Exposing us to a world beyond just a local Jewish community is something I really appreciate about Heschel. I will always look back on my years at Heschel with a smile on my face, warmth in my heart, and a strong sense of gratitude for helping me grow into the person I am today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Jacob. And finally, we are going to have a parent perspective from Michelle Sabari. Michelle lives in Thornhill and works full-time as an audiologist. And that full-time professional status may not sound like much until you hear that Michelle is the mother of 6 children, which I'm in awe of. She currently has 5 children at Heschel, ranging from JK through grade 8, so she's experienced what the Heschel curriculum offers throughout early years, elementary, and junior high. Michelle would like to share with you why she chose Heschel for her children and some experiences she and her children have had at the school. Thank you, Michelle, for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Michelle, as she said, and I'm looking around the room, and I just want to let you know I was in your place in what feels like just a few years ago, and truth is I'm about to cry, because I'm in that place right now. My eldest daughter right now is in grade 8, and I'm having to make the decision of what are we going to do for high school. So it's so interesting to hear what you guys have to say. But being in that place for grade 8 and going into grade 9 and having to make these decisions again, it's forced me to kind of think back, and it was so interesting for Bailey to ask me to come today, because I remember being in these seats, and I remember trying to figure out, well, what school do we go to? How are we going to decide? What are we going to do? And I went to many schools, spoke to many people, did quite a bit of research in deciding to come here. So how did we end up here? Why did we decide this school, and what made it the choice for us, and how did we get here? I'll tell you something, is that we actually started out in public school. So my children did go to a daycare that was a Jewish daycare. They learned Hebrew, and then they moved on to public school for their younger years. They were there 2 years, so my older 3 kids, some were there for JKSK, SK1, depending on what age it was, 1, 2, but they had 2 years in public school. And being in public school, we started to realize this wasn't the right fit for our family. We really wanted to be in a Jewish education, and we started looking around. How did we get to Heschel? One of the first, I don't want to cry, one of the first conversations I had with someone with Heschel was actually Mark. And I spoke to him, and he said to me, we will do whatever we can to make sure you can come here and you can give your children a Jewish education. And that was such a different response that I got than I had at any other school. It was a very emotional thing. I understand now what it was and what the big picture was, is what Heschel offers is this camaraderie. It's between the teachers. It probably starts at highest up, I really should say, all the heads of schools. It comes down to the teachers, the students, and the parents. And I'm going to point out these different areas because each one is just as important. And this is what really made us make this decision and has really proved to us that this was the right decision for us and our family. I'm going to actually say today when I walked in, and it just kind of threw me off a little bit, is as was told, there's an event going on downstairs. One of our teachers is running it. He happened to be running towards the door to grab something as I was coming in, and I felt like I just walked into someone's house because what he said to me was, welcome, come on in, come have something to eat. You need to come check it out. Oh, I know you got to go to a meeting, but come eat, come try something. Now, if anyone here thinks about it, when someone knocks on your door, you walk into someone's house, what's the first thing you do? Let me take your jacket. Do you want something to eat or something to drink? It's extremely welcoming. You feel like you're coming home. And this was just something that was amazing to me. It just happened today. This happens all the time. JKSK, I was going to start in order that way. What do they start with? One of the first things that's taught and is focused on in the JKSK curriculum is this whole idea of children starting to understand who they are. They become little mensches, but not just that. They start to understand their emotions and what they mean. These are little kids who will cry when they want something, will steal someone else's toy, but they learn to understand how do they feel if someone stole my toy? Or if I want that green pen and someone else has it, how are they going to feel if I take it from them? Now, that's a big deal. And to start to understand not only how they're feeling, but how someone else is feeling is a very hard concept even for us adults. I think to myself, any of you, if you work and you're at work and you're doing a project or doing some work and you get upset or something happens with the group of people that you're working with, as many of us keep that inside and we stay angry at a colleague or a coworker and we keep that always there and then we're always mad at them. But why? Can you imagine having the resources to be able to understand, well, how does that person feel? And if I'm upset, how could they be feeling? And how can I approach them and begin to talk to them to make this okay again so we can move on? These children in JKSK, these little people, they're doing this, and it's amazing. I can tell you I've seen it firsthand at the school, but more than that, my kids bring it home, and they bring it into the house. So there's this one idea that they do in kindergarten where they're talking about this circle of I had to write down the name of it. Circle of Resolution, where the teachers have worked with that. I hope that's what it's called. Conflict resolution, but it's a circle. There's this picture that they give them of the different areas to go through. And I've had this hanging on my wall for years. I took it down only recently. But my kids will, if they're mad at each other, upset at each other, I'm like, guys, remember the circle? And they're like, okay, how do you feel? Okay, let's hug it out. And we move on. And it happens in my house, not just happening at school. And that takes us there. You've heard a few of us speak about how the teachers here are special. It's not just special, they naturally go beyond, and it's natural. There's this wonderful teacher, she sees my children in the hall, right away she's like, can I just have a hug? I'm having a bad day, can I have a hug that makes me feel better? Well, my kids feel like, wow, like I must be something special if I can make this adult feel good. Another teacher who, he chose this really adorable nickname for one of my children. It's caught on, he loves it, it's sweet, it's fun, it goes. Slowly but surely, this nickname has been passed on to all my children, so now all my kids are called by this, it's cute. Well, he only teaches the older grades, or some of the older grades, but when my little one, he saw her in the hall one day, he like screamed down the hall this nickname, she turns around, her whole face, I happened to be there, her whole face brightens up, and she's like, I just got called this name, just like my older siblings, and just so excited. What does this do to a child? This makes them feel so good about themselves and about the connections between their siblings and the school and this teacher who they don't even have thinks they're somebody special. This is what the teachers do, and it amazes me over and over again. Something, again, just happened the other day. A teacher sent me an email with a picture of one of my children in the garden from a year or two ago. It's just a sweet little picture. And the email said, look at this attachment. I just happened to come around this picture. Hope you're having a good day. And it was interesting timing. I didn't even tell her this yet, but this child had been sick. I happened to be worried about him because I had sent him to school after just getting better. And that particular day I said to him, if you're not feeling well, call me, let me know, I'll come pick you up. And he got through the day, and I get this picture in the middle of the day, and I'm like, oh, I guess he's okay. Like, it was just a really, really sweet thing that happened. So the teachers are always making us feel this connection. This then get passed on to the parents. And to me, again, I've had experiences where there isn't connections between people, and you kind of come and you go. Few examples, just to point things out. One of the parents was doing a course, she's studying, and she's doing this course, and she needed to get a group of kids together to teach them things outside in a forest and doing outdoor activities. My daughter's the same age as her. She asked if she can include her. Yeah, sure, go ahead. So she takes the kids once a week for a few hours to do this little play group outside. Really, really lovely. My daughter's loving it. She's getting this benefit of all this extra learning because this mother was so kind to run this little program. To add to that, this day that I had to pick her up from this mother, I get a call from another mother who said, Michelle, I'm calling you because my son forgot his sweatshirt outside. It's really an important sweatshirt to him. It was something that she had made for him. He doesn't want to leave it there. I know you're at the school late today. Can you pick up the sweatshirt? I was like, well, okay, I happened to be in a rush, and I left the school like 5 minutes ago, but I know a mother who's nearby the school. Let me see if she can grab it. Call this mother up because they were near the school, and she's like, no problem. She went around, grabbed the sweatshirt. I had to meet her to pick up my daughter. This is all the craziness that goes on in my life, as Bailey was saying. But needless to say, within about 10 minutes, I had the sweatshirt in my hand from this mom who had just called me on the phone. So we're all interconnected. These kind of connections that are happening at Heschel are constant. This is constantly happening. Another something that really stood out to me is we were talking about the sports teams. Recently, my children were on the sports teams. I went to go watch one of the soccer games. I happen to know parents of some of the other schools. We play against a lot of the Jewish schools in the area. So we were playing one of the schools that I know parents of. There's 2 separate benches. Parents of our school are here, parents of the other school over there. So I go to say hi to some of the parents of the other school first. I say hi to parent number 1, we speak. I then see parent number 2, we speak. Parent number 3, we speak. They're all sort of sitting separately, you know, they said hi to me, very, very kind people. I said, great, watch the game, good luck to your children. I move over to our Heschel bench. Our Heschel bench, all the parents are sitting close together, rooting, screaming for the kids. But more than that, I kind of come over and I sit down. Hi, I'm Michelle, you made it. Okay, here's how your daughter's doing. Here's what else is happening. Here's how the team is doing. Oh, and I'm still doing work, but my Wi-Fi is not working. Another parent, oh, don't worry, my Wi-Fi, you go off of my Wi-Fi and I'm going to get this. Oh, wait, this one just stopped. Can you? And they were working all together in the middle of all of this, just interconnected. This is at a children's soccer game. What I thought was even more beautiful is we happened at one point to be sitting right near the goal, sorry, I don't play, where the goalie is standing of the other team. And one of the fathers who knows soccer is rooting and screaming and yelling all these wonderful things. And when the goalie of the other team did something really good, he's like, good job, you just caught the ball, or I don't know, whatever the right wording is. And the goalie turned around like, who's yelling at me? And noticed it was the other team, and she's like, thanks. He's like, no problem. A little bit later on, she saved something, or she really ran for it, or dodge, or whatever you call it, and he screamed out something, and she's like, thank you. And I just, again, Heschel is like this. This is part of our camaraderie. We all get along. Didn't matter this is the other team. He was still encouraging her and giving her ideas and trying to like teach her, and it's just a parent watching the game. Again, the other team was sitting there quietly clapping, yay, but it's different. It's different. There's a different type of connection and a different type of group of people that I see happening here. Little bit off topic, but things that stood out as you guys were all talking too, is there's there's many amazing things that happen here, and a few that stood out for me is how Heschel's really able to integrate. We're integrating not just the Hebrew and the English and the arts, but it's all like constant, and this whole being tikkun olam and being good to everyone. This is always happening. Again, as I said, my children were at public school for some of the younger grades, and in the younger grades, especially in grade 1, they do a lot of patterns and math and A, B, ABC, ABC patterns, and these kids know it inside out and outside up. Here in grade 1, these kids already know it, but they have to go through it as part of the secular curriculum. They have to do it. So what do? Happens around Rosh Hashanah time. So they're not just doing, let's do a pattern. They have this beautiful thing where they're connecting it with Rosh Hashanah and the bees and the honey and how the sun is growing and how the honey bee, because the sun, you have the honey. And they have, the children all make these patterns, either of a sun or a bee and the different patterns that are coming out from it. Then in music class, they have the shofar and they blow different patterns with the shofar, or they're clapping with their hands these different patterns. So we're really trying to integrate and show and have the children feel from all these different angles what they need to learn, which is just these A-B patterns. It's amazing. Another thing in an older grade that stood out for me, I think it's either grade 5 or 6, the children have always, they focus on learning essays, and everyone knows you have to write the essay and have an opening paragraph and do all these different parts, and the children have to learn this. When I was in school, I never knew what to write about. And the teacher would like, write an essay so they can see that we knew these parts. Well, I didn't know what to do. Well, here at Heschel, it's integrated with the curriculum and everything else that's happening. So they were learning about shtetl life and read all these stories and all these kind of things. So now they had to put it all together, copy this idea of the shtetl and what it was like back in those years, but connect it to their essays and write this essay and make it all flow. Now, I don't know, back in the day I could barely write an essay. These children are at these levels already integrating it through. It is just incredible, absolutely incredible the way they're able to do this. The other last thing I want to point out is how much Heschel, the parents, the teachers, the heads of schools, really are considerate of everybody and everybody's needs and everybody's awareness. We're all different, and I think you guys were pointed that out. We're all coming from different backgrounds. Some people might be more religious, less religious, follow this, don't follow that. We all have our shticks, and that's fine. People are so respectful of it. And I'll tell you just for me personally, when my children go to someone's house, the parents come to me and say, what can we feed your kids? What can they have? What can't they have? Do they eat meat? Because I don't want to give them dairy if they eat meat. And they go through all this with me, and it's so sweet and so kind, and I so much appreciate it. So it's just something that we're very open to and very aware of and really stuck well with me. So how did I end up here? Because when I came in here, I was amazed. I was in awe. I was in wonder. And that's what they say that they're trying to teach our kids. Well, that's what they did for me as a parent. And every day I come pick up my children, I'm more in awe and more in wonder and can't wait to learn more. And hearing all this over again, I have a child right now in the middle, but I have a JK and in a grade 8. So I have one who's about to leave and one who's just starting this whole curriculum. And I'm excited. I'm so excited to see where they both go and where everyone goes, and it's just really an amazing thing. The chavruta, the connections, everything we have here, both inside and outside the classrooms, is just incredible. So I wish you good luck in making all the choices for your children, especially as they're growing. And just remember, these are big decisions and nothing's stuck in stone. So whatever decision you decide to make, if it works for your children, great. If you need to make some changes, there's always lots of opportunities. So good luck, everybody. If you have any questions for me afterwards, feel free to stop me. I have lots of stories and lots to share. All right? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. So we, whoops, wrong direction. There we go. So we did start a little bit late, and I know that it's getting late for people. We do have maybe a few minutes for Q&A, but maybe a few less minutes than we might have had otherwise. In terms of just sort of basic logistic questions and things like that, there is a handout in the folders that you have there that covers that kind of thing. So I invite Greg and Alan to come on up and answer any questions that people might have. So let's just spend a few minutes with that before wrapping up. Come on up.
Answer it. Depending on the question. Are there any questions other than logistical questions? Go ahead. Oh, that's a great question. So, I mean, Alan spoke quite a bit about the approach that we take to Derech Eretz. I mean, we have both, I would say, a proactive and a responsive approach. One of the things that we work really hard to do here is build a culture of mutual appreciation and consideration. So as you heard, in the early years, students are already learning positive ways of engaging in conflict resolution. So they learn that you need to be aware of how other people are feeling. You need to sort of look at their face. Does somebody look happy? Do they look unhappy with what you've done? So from a very, very early age, our students are learning the skills to that, I would say to a large extent, prevent bullying. And I think we do a pretty good job overall of having very low levels of bullying in the school. Now, I can't say we have none. We live in a broader culture. We live in a society. It can happen. One of the advantages that we have here is we have small classes, small, a low or a high teacher-to-student ratio, low student-to-teacher ratio, which means our teachers are very aware of what's going on in the class. It's pretty hard for something to not get noticed and not get addressed. And then we try to address it usually in pretty one-on-one kind of ways. If someone's engaging in behavior that's not appropriate, that's not in keeping with the school's derech eretz code, we usually try to take a sort of a positive approach at first. There's usually a reason. Sometimes something's going on for that kid. Find out what it is. We have a social worker in the school who can work really closely with students. And then, if things really aren't going well, we do have a restorative tikkun approach where there will be some kind of consequences and ways of sort of figuring out what happened and ways of addressing it with the person who was hurt. But I think it's a pretty nuanced approach. It's a pretty one-on-one approach. We have the staff ability to kind of do it that way. And not have a kind of cookie-cutter approach that works in all situations. But generally speaking, and I hope that it kind of came across in what Michelle said, the culture here is very supportive and positive. The overall sense is that we want to get along with each other. We're friends, we're connected, we're family in some sense, and that's the pervasive culture of the school. Yeah. Would you agree, Michelle? Yeah. As a parent? Yeah.
My daughter comes home and she's like, oh, mommy, so-and-so over here did something. And I go, okay, so what was the outcome? And she's like, well, he got in trouble, but it's okay, because in the end he said sorry, and now we're friends, and now we're going to color together.
Right.
So she's seen, this is young, but I really feel like in these younger years is when they're teaching them this, so that when it gets to the older years, like I think of grade 8, they understand by grade 8 who their closer friends are, but they understand that as a class they are connected and they affect each other. So if one person isn't talking to someone else, it affects everybody. Or if one person is rude or mad or says something mean to someone in that class, it actually affects the group as a whole. And I think it's true that teachers pick up on it relatively quickly and it's addressed. Benefit of this law process.
Yeah, for sure. And we also try to do it as much as possible through a Jewish lens as well, so drawing on Jewish narratives, Jewish concepts and ideas to address any kind of social issues.
What the students were saying is their experiences were that because they were able to know all the kids in their grade, they worked on different projects together so that you had the opportunity to get to know sort of everybody. So there is sort of that coming together. No one's feeling like left out or...
Yeah, in the same way that at that soccer game, all the parents were talking to each other. I'm sure you guys would concur that the way we learn here at Heschel, you're working together a lot. There's a lot of chavruta, a lot of group work. Did either of you want to add anything around bullying or social relations at the school?
As much as I love chat and I'm having a great experience there, it is a massive school. There are hundreds and hundreds of kids per grade. And that sort of leaves sort of that space where someone might not know a kid and they see something going on. It's not they don't care, but like they have so much going on, they don't really know that kid, it's not their business. But at Heschel, everyone has this tight relationship with each other. Everyone's each other's friend. And I think that it doesn't really leave room for bullying, because if someone's bullying one kid, it's sort of like they're just breaking apart the whole class's bond. And
And you said earlier, you were learning of respect for everybody. So even if you weren't somebody's best friend, you knew just how to respect the other people that are around you.
Yeah. No, it really is a culture that we build here. And look, we're not immune to the forces of the larger society, and we do live in a time and there's a fair amount of just kind of bullying going on in the broader world, and it's hard for all of us kids and adults not to feel that. But we really do our best here to build a culture of community and connection. Yeah. Other questions? Hi. Yeah, good question. So we've had sort of various iterations of that. Previously, and even now to some extent, the sort of annual performance review does inform teacher salary. And we've just shifted from that a little bit, and now teachers essentially can earn credits to what we call an accreditation process at the school for demonstrating certain proficiencies that are related to the school's methodologies. So there's essentially incentive to improve as a teacher, incentive to improve in your practice, incentive to contribute to the culture. It's not just teaching, sometimes it can be to culture. There's a number of different ways that we do it, but it's essentially incentives for teachers to improve in their practice, in their contributions to the school, in addition to regular salary increases that people get for seniority. Yeah.
I don't really fully understand. But what I see is that different teachers step up to different events or different activities.
Mm-hmm.
They give the children a chance to interact with teachers that they may not have otherwise. So kid in grade 8 might be interacting with grade 2 and 3 teacher. Well, that's neat. They now hear someone else doing something else, different ideas with them.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, there's a lot of that also, just as a function of sort of the size of the school and the teachers being involved in a lot of different things. You know, the grade 8 science teacher, who's also the environmental coordinator, works a lot with the grade 2s in the garden. So there's a lot of that kind of interplay as well, not connected to salary, but yeah, culture. Other questions? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It is a simple, not simple question. And we're actually struggling with that ourselves at the moment. Actually, it's a really interesting question. Look, we're an elementary school, and our main prerogative in terms of teaching Israel is for our kids to appreciate that Israel is a really important feature of the Jewish world and the Jewish people. Israel gives us a tremendous amount in terms of culture and language, home in some respects. We want our children to have a very positive perspective on Israel. But we're not, we don't want to be one of those schools where, 10, 15 years from now, our graduates come back and say, you didn't tell us, you made it sound like Israel was perfect and there were no problems. And now we see wait a minute, it's not like that, you lied to us. We're not going to be that school either. So as, the students, and I think our students can concur, as we move up in the grades and they move up into grades 7 and 8, we do look at some of the challenges and some of the diversity of Israel, shall we say, in terms of, political positions and some of the conversations, if you want to call them that go on in the Israeli landscape. But at the end of the day, what we're really interested in is that our students appreciate the culture that comes out of Israel. It's a huge, contributor to modern, Jewish culture and thinking, and we can't underestimate it. In terms of the actual map that we use, I wish I could tell you. We're kind of working, Alan and I were actually just discussing that a few weeks back. It's not going to be a map that indicates that Israel is, a complete, from the Mediterranean to the Jordan, because that's not the reality. There's really nobody in any part of the Israeli, 90% of the Israeli political spectrum that would have such a map, and we wouldn't either. By the same token, having the Swiss cheese map is very confusing to kids from a pedagogical perspective, so it's a good question. We don't have a perfect answer for it. But like everything here, we're always thinking about it, and we're not going to, we're not going to present kids with something that is deceptive in any direction, to the best of our ability, at their age level, Yeah, but we're cognizant of it. And we try to be intentional, really, about everything that we do here at the school. So I know it's not a perfect answer to your question, but I hope it at least reveals that we care and think about these things very deeply, and they matter to us. Yeah. 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 No, look, at the end of the day, we just want to teach our kids to be critical thinkers here at the school as well, and to walk into the world with eyes open. We want them to be deeply, appreciative and have a deep sense of connection with Israel and with the Jewish people, both in the diaspora and in Israel. And we don't want anybody getting vilified in either direction. But we obviously, presenting things like that, in overly simplistic terms is not a good idea in any respect, whether it's math or Israel. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question that actually is a bouncing off of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the expression of need, just to say that like for my family in particular, the van situation makes Heschel like from a place of like more affordable and new funding to like sort of 75% double, which we can't go back to.
So you're talking about the busing?
This is a vote for busing.
Yes.
And then so
Yeah, so Mark's in the room, and that's his area, so he'll note that. Another vote. The more votes we have for busing, the easier it makes it for us to do it in an affordable way. So that's really important. And actually, I should say we are getting more and more families. You know, the school is a bit of a magnet school, and we are attracting families both from the south end of the city and the north of Steele. So I don't know which part of that you guys would be, but certainly the more people who need it, the more we can do it. So yeah, and we do want to encourage people to come. So thank you for letting us know that that's a need. Mm-hmm.
Unlike our wider society, Heschel, I think, really pushes integrated thinking.
Yeah.
Our wider society does encourage more linear thinking.
Yep.
But there are some kids, and as a pre-JK parent, I don't really know what kind of thinker and feeler my child would be.
Yeah.
Do you have more like linear, logical thinkers who think in more simple terms? And not necessarily less intelligent,
Yep.
but differently intelligent, and
Yeah. I mean, linear logical thinking is one of the ways that some people think, and it can be a dominant form of thinking for some people. And I think, you know, one of the ways we approach many of the disciplines here, I think, speaks to that as well. So our approach to math actually is very linear and very logical. It's not formulaic. But there's a big difference between logical and structured and formulaic. So, you know, I think that our approach to math speaks, you know, very well to students who are logical, rational thinkers. I think our approach to teaching Hebrew, I mean, we use an immersive approach, which is very good for oral and oral, you know, students who have strong oral and oral skills. But we also teach students about the structure of the language and the roots of the language, which is a very mathematical approach to learning about language as well. Our literacy approach is very, I'm reluctant to use the word balanced because that's sort of a hot button word at the moment, but it is really balanced in the true sense of balanced, which is that we teach phonetics and phonics, but we also teach for meaning. So, you know, we really try our best here at the school to approach the disciplines from, you know, using all of the intelligences, including logical linear thinking. It's not that we don't do that, it's just that we also are attentive to other forms of learning as well. Yeah. I mean, the only area, and just to be perfectly transparent about it, that I would say, you know, students who have very significant language learning challenges would find a dual curriculum challenging at any school. And because we do take the Hebrew seriously here, I mean, when we say we teach in immersion, we really do teach in immersion. You know, for a very small percentage of kids, that can be a challenge that is difficult to overcome. But generally speaking, if they learn their first language well, and they learn that using an immersion approach, because that's how we learn languages, they're most likely going to learn Hebrew well too. The challenge is, in many cases, is that Hebrew's not taught that way. It's actually taught not in an immersion approach, not in a natural language approach, and that's where, you know, you start to see, you know, a lot more difficulties than one should have. I know that wasn't your question, but I'm kind of just moving from that. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. Yeah. Okay, wrap it up. All right.
Of course, we are always free to engage in more questions at any time. We'll just, for the sake of ending sooner than later, we will wrap that up there. I just have a few more very quick things to say. There are lots of different ways to get to know about Heschel. One is the Heschel Hive, which is our blog that you can find online. It sort of gives you more of a day-to-day look at what's going on at the school. Think Magazine, you have them in the folders that you have there. And I'll just point out that one of the things that you have in the folder is a specific compilation of Think articles that relate to the grade that you are interested in. So that is a very interesting way to focus on different Think articles. We do have a YouTube channel if you prefer watching videos. And we also would love to put you in touch with more parents. Michelle was very gracious in that she's available, but we have lots of different parents who would be very happy to speak with you. Just get in touch with me if you are interested in being introduced. Our virtual tour. Well, you're here now, and hopefully if you haven't already done a tour, you'll take a few more minutes to see part of the school. But I'll just point out that the virtual tour actually has teacher videos in every room that you enter on the tour. So even if you've been around the building, it's kind of nice to go and visit a variety of classrooms to see what different teachers have to say. It's a good way to get to know them. We are having an early years Hanukkah party on Sunday, December 18th at 10 a.m. So if you have kids between the ages of 18 months and 6 years, you can register for that online. And lastly, this is very, very fresh, brand new news. We are going to be having a new toddler program for Friday mornings. It's a 10-week program called Sensational Taught Shabbat. It's going to be starting January 20th. It's going to be an interactive celebration where the parent and child will be together and experiencing all of the different senses that one would experience on Shabbat. The children will get to see, hear, touch, smell, and taste Shabbat through arts and crafts, a sing-along, circle, challahs, and other activities in an interactive Shabbat circle. So I don't even have information yet on how to register for this, so just if you have kids in this age group, keep it in mind and I will be in touch. So that is it. We really thank you all. I know it's a little bit late. Thank you all for staying and for listening. If you are interested in doing a tour of early years, Andrea and Heidi are available for that. If you have children who are older, Edna is available to speak with, who is our director of junior high. And I'm happy to answer any questions as well. Thanks again, everyone, for coming.